Good.
Good evening. Or is it evening yet? No, it's only afternoon.
Yeah, in the afternoon so far. As well.
Wardingley, how are you? I'm here to talk about Albert Wardingley. I'd start out by saying that I would never know or never hear of Columbiana if it wasn't for this document right here, this piece of paper. Would never heard about him. You see, my name is Albert Wardingley. There's a nice picture of Albert and his wife, born May 13th, 1924 in Chicago. And I served in World War II under General George Patton. And he was just like everybody says about George Patton. He was that type of guy. And in fact, my experience with George and the European venture made such an impression on me that I stayed in Milan, Italy, and got my civil engineering degree, and came back to the United States after the war, and I married Shirley. And with my civil engineering degree, I got a job. And by the way, Shirley was from England. Her parents lived in England, so that's where he found Shirley. He got his first job in Markham, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago. And he started out in government administration, management. And after several years there, he was promoted to the city manager of that city. Well, about that same time that he was working, in 1970, the village of Columbiana had experienced over 25% growth since 1950. And the community leaders took a look at the situation and said, you know, we're a growing community, and we wonder if our current form of government, which is a mayor-council form of government, with the mayor being the chief officer and administrator of the city, was that the best way that we should go? You know, basically, could an untrained mayor do what was necessary to manage a growing town? Or would it be better to have a professional manager with public administration experience? So in 1971, they appointed a charter commission of 15 members, and those folks spent a long time researching ways that we could set up home rule government in Columbiana. And they eventually prepared this document, which I've laid down there, and that document had to be taken to the citizens for their consideration. And so there was debate, and the charter was approved by the citizens. Now, I would like to say right now that that wasn't a really popular decision back then, and there were people opposed, very opposed, so opposed that they put a repeal on the ballot to take away the charter and go back to the old form of government. But that repeal was not approved, and the charter form of government became what we know here in Columbiana today. So the first thing the city had to do was advertise for a village manager, and Al took that situation and he applied for the job along with 20 other people. And they interviewed 4 individuals, and Al got the job. And so for the first time he heard about Columbiana, and for the first time he took his family, his wife and 2 children, and they moved to Columbiana and got a house out on South Main Street. And that's where they lived. So in 1973, he began to prepare his administration as a village manager here in Columbiana. Now, there were a lot of things he did during that period of time that he worked. One of the things I found out was he modernized a lot of our streets. A lot of the streets in town didn't have any utilities or infrastructure based under the streets, the sewer, the water, and so the streets had to be torn up, and these, you know, he had to put the infrastructure in properly, and the citizens didn't like it because they got a fee to pay to have that work done. That wasn't popular. He had to do something about the water plant, so they had to work to do some efforts to modernize and improve the amount of water that can be produced in Columbiana, and so he spent time on that. You know, one of the things that makes Columbiana different from, for example, East Palestine, is we knew that for the city's growth we had to tie in to the Route 14 corridor. It was very important for the city because it gave us the connection with the public, you know, with people being aware of the city. And so Al was involved in, you know, doing the plaza development and the things we know on Route 14 right now, and where Route 46 and 164 come into town. He was involved in that. Of course, the other thing they had to do to modernize and improve our city was our city ordinances, and our city zoning laws and regulations had to be updated and promoted, and he constantly worked on those types of things. Now, one thing that I found Al was very good at was working with the city officials in the town, the council members, the planning commission. He had good relationship with those people, and he worked very, very hard. And from you know, things that have been written, he always gave credit to the city employees, the village employees, whenever possible, and he expressed how much he appreciated their service. But what was really passionate for Al was that he felt in order for the city to grow, we needed an industrial park, and he championed the effort to establish the industrial park out on the eastern section of Route 14, and they got the land and they got the concept of developing that project. And I was told, and I know that many times he always had boots in the back of his car because he went out to the site and had to put his boots on to go out and tour the site. Albert, by the way, was very prim and proper, usually wore a shirt and tie to work, and presented himself very professionally at all times. So there was a lot of planning and a lot of discussion, but the cost of the project was high. It was going to be a big challenge for the city, and so there was discussion, and it was not totally a you know, cut and dry decision. And the fact of the matter is, when the proposal was considered by village council, the vote was 3-3. It was a tie vote, and Dick Simpson, the mayor at the time, cast the vote to approve the plan of developing the industrial park in Columbiana. So those were some of the things he did, and unfortunately in 1992 had a heart attack and was very, very ill, and the safety service director, Keith Chamberlain, was eventually out with his health situation, retired, and Keith Chamberlain became the second village manager in Columbiana. Albert and his wife moved to Las Vegas, Nevada, because that's where their daughter was residing, and he spent his last years and passed away in Las Vegas, Nevada. So that's my story of Albert Wardingley.
Thank you.
Okay, great job.